In today's show, we have another of our popular TNT Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, and today it's a multi-topic show where number one, we first discuss Admiral Byrd. What did he see in the South Pole? Was it a hollow earth with alien beings, or was he just hallucinating? We also discuss, is fluorine in water good for us, or are there nefarious reasons it is there? And finally, we discuss the mysterious death of Stanley Meyer, the inventor of the water-powered engine. Was he bumped off to stop his invention coming to market?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah. What the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
For benefit of our listeners on audio, they can't see what I'm wearing. I've put on the brightest top you could imagine that you need sunglasses for, to maybe cheer up my good friend and colleague, to maybe he'll quip and smile and say something, maybe bouncy and joyful, but it hasn't worked.
I didn't even actually realize that you put that on to try and cheer me up, because it had the exact opposite effect.
Oh, I see.
I just think to myself, how low can we actually go? I mean, this is not pink, I suppose. So a little, bright side of life and all that. I could actually having quite a rotten day. As I was talking to you, Tony, earlier before we began recording this, I had a bad quarrel with my project manager in the office this morning.
Oh.
She said I never take responsibility for anything, which I found offensive and painful. I ended up yelling at her. I told her, look, it's not my fault. It's the way my parents brought me up.
Okay, that's what, mild for you.
I told you to stop agonizing you every week. I will do my best, but I can't hope to keep it up. I mean, it's the best I can do.
Oh dear. Anyway, let's move on with the show. And today we've got another one of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes. And we've got, hopefully, fingers crossed, a number of topics that we'll try and discuss today. So we'll see, time permitting, see how that goes. But the first one we're going to touch on is someone called Admiral Byrd. And what did he see in the South Pole? Now, Taya, you brought this one up initially, so do you want to elaborate?
Yes, I don't mind elaborating. I came across the video. So, okay, first of all, you said our popular Dynamite Conspiracy theory series. I certainly hope at the end of this one it'll still be popular. Because, okay, this Admiral Byrd, I troll the internet. I get fed because I'm looking for conspiracies and things. I suppose I guess the algorithm sends me videos and things. And at first, this sounded interesting. What did Admiral Byrd find, hidden deep in the Antarctic, in the South Pole? And I watched the video, and there were, usual things, lost civilizations, possibly UFOs, aliens, and things like that. All sounded very interesting. And I told you about it, and I kind of just left it there. So it was only when I knew this episode was coming up that I started looking into it. And apparently, the best answer is that Admiral Byrd found in the Antarctic ice, and lots of it. And that's it.
You can't be dismissive that bad. I mean, you've got to understand, he's an admiral, for goodness sake. Yep. And he flew, was it the Antarctic or the Arctic? I think there's some...
Antarctic, it was South Pole.
Antarctic, wasn't it?
Yep.
And he flew down there and apparently he
I don't think
found
he
it.
flew there.
Well, he got down there because they were looking for German bases, I think it
That's
was.
right. Well,
This was just
flying.
after the
That's a long way
Second
to
World
go.
War. And so they went down there because they got a tip-off saying there was a German base in Antarctica. So they obviously had a group, and they had to go down there to discover if it was there. But what he found instead, which seems a little bit fantastical, is a... I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop not laughing.
You can't even say with a straight face.
He said that they found an opening.
He said. I don't think he said. I think it was claimed.
He said it, apparently.
Oh, did he?
Because because he was interviewed back in Washington in March 1947 by top security people and also medical teams. They were checking him, ensuring he was okay. And apparently he was ordered, not asked, ordered to remain silent of what he'd witnessed for the behalf of humanity. And because he was a military man, he felt obliged to comply. And there was even a book written about the findings. And, you know, if you find something, you can write about it. People can somehow, you know, maybe take on board and think like you, think, oh yeah, it looks a bit strange. Okay, maybe we need to investigate further. It was just the bit that carried on after it. It was, I mean, he went into quite a descriptive, you know, explanation. And he said he saw land consisting of mountains, forests, green vegetation, lakes, rivers, and he saw animals in this area. It was like a lost world beneath the ice, and he even saw animals that resembled mammoths. And he then had to, so he saw this, he witnessed this and had to come back, and they said had to go again. They went again in 1956, and I can't say this without laughing, but they said that they went beyond the pole this time. They found another opening and a vast new land, and people confronted him, and they weren't human. And they took him and interviewed him and started giving him warnings. And he had to, anyway, he had to report back and not divulge anything. And they had UFOs there, you name it, they had it. And I don't know what to make of it. To be honest, I've given up now already after speaking all this stuff. And because he was an admiral, obviously he's quite high ranking. You'd have thought that he would have a lot of influence and can say this stuff, but there's not a shred of evidence. None. So big claims need big evidence. And he said that he spoke to someone called them, and he referred to them as a master. And the thing that got me was that this being was speaking to him in English. And straight away, I lose it when it comes to that, because if you're from another dimension, another planet, another species, why are you speaking English? I mean, could you speak Indian or Chinese? Why do it have to be English? He happens to be English, they speak in English. It just seems a little far-fetched to me, and no evidence whatsoever. To me, was he smoking wacky backy or something? I mean, to me, there's just nothing in this that leads me to think that there's any shred of truth in it. I don't know what you think.
This is almost like a Mandela effect kind of thing. It's like a parallel Mandela effect, because I don't even have this impression of Admiral Byrd. All the videos I've seen of him have been a quite reasonable person, just talking about quite reasonable things. So this is why I said that he found ice, because I haven't watched any interviews where he said he found, you know, X, Y, Z and strange things. And this is why I called it a nothing burger, because because even
Elaborate for some of our listeners who don't know what that means.
well, a nothing burger is just an Americanism. I seem to pick up a lot of Americanisms, and you can imagine that you got a burger full of a juicy hamburger and onions and things like that. But imagine being served two slices of bread and there's nothing inside. Not even butter. No, oh man, So that's just a nothing burger, and that's what we have here. That you've got these two seemingly juicy, buns, hamburger. And you think, this is going to be great, and then you open it up and you go, so what's this? There's nothing there. The last surviving member of Admiral Byrd's expedition, I think, was 101 years old. I don't know when. This was not too long ago. He made it to 101. So look, let's see. The expedition was in, what was it, 1947?
47, yeah. And he went back in 56 as well.
So he went in 1947. So what's that to the top of the...
53 years to 2000. So it's another 75 years.
75 years. So anyone who was 101 was 26 at the time. Right? I could have made it to like this year. I don't think it was this year when I saw the video, but when the video was made, but it was 101. And he never said anything about aliens or whatever. You'd think it would be a great time to say, I saw aliens, something like that. He didn't. Just like, pictures of him trying to shake hands with a penguin, the sort of thing you'd expect from a normal trip to the Antarctic, and nobody had killed him off in mysterious circumstances to silence him. As I understand it, the members of the expedition, most of them died normal deaths, and there's just nothing, apart from this weird account from somewhere about something funny going on. And there's even a name for the blooming place that they found, supposedly found, called Agatha, Agartha. Agatha, which is supposedly where they found it. Now the thing is that 7 countries say they own Antarctica, which I think is wrong. We'll have to wait for a world war to sort that out. How can you own Antarctica? So it's the usual suspects: France, England, United States, and then a few other ones. I think maybe Germany is there, but I'm not really sure. And then Argentina and Chile, I think. And if you look at the distribution of ownership, it all gets sliced into the center of the continent. It's like a pie. When you cut up a pie, there's this meeting point in the middle where all the points meet. So if there really was an Agatha or something like that, each of these nations you would expect to be technologically advanced somehow. It wouldn't just be America or whatever. You'd think that'd be some kind of benefit to ownership of this, and it's just not there. There's absolutely no serious investigation. Just brings up anything, that backs up any argument that Admiral Byrd found something significant. I'm not even sure he found even German subs. I think he was looking for German.
He didn't find anything. German base or
anything. I don't think he found those. So I don't know where this story came from that they found aliens and whatnot. Just really peculiar.
I mean, it's to do. I mean, the argument goes that he was asked there and summoned by the species, and they were interested in us because we'd exploded.
Why didn't they come and visit?
They did. They sent out. They called them the Flourinated.
Okay.
That
doesn't sound English.
Yeah, I know. That was supposed to be flying machines. They sent them out to investigate, because this is all to do with the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so these beings were interested in humans now, because we've now discovered something. We found the matches and we're playing with the matches. That's almost what's happened with the atomic bombs. We're playing with something we shouldn't be playing with. And so they've got a bit interested, and they sent the Flourinated, which are flying machines, to investigate what we'd done. And apparently they had reached out to us humans, but we kept it hidden and are not listening. But I mean, this
So if you understood humans and you really wanted to reach out to us, surely you would just land in front of the United Nations building. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
on a sunny afternoon. That would kind of get everybody's attention, I'd have
It
thought.
would, wouldn't it? It would.
So
And
this,
it's just these stories. They're two a penny. There's so many of them, and I don't know how it got attached to him
hmm,
or not, or was it because he was the one that went there? And
well, I don't know, 1947. I mean, I didn't hear about this. When was the first time you heard about this Admiral Byrd expedition?
only when you brought
Well,
it up,
okay,
I'd
so
never
I
heard
heard
of it.
about it in
So
2021. So,
right, there you go.
what happened in the intervening years? It's not credible.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
mean,
credible. It's not a real. It's not even a conspiracy. What's a conspiracy? That people are hiding this information, but again, the number of people who have to be hiding this thing. You know how hard it is to keep a secret,
well, indeed.
and yet, must be thousands of people in at least those 7 countries must be aware of what's going on down there, and everybody's keeping quiet. I mean, that's remarkable.
Oh, indeed. I mean, I've seen a diagram which I find ridiculous, and it shows this to be a hollow Earth.
I've
And
often wondered about this hollow Earth thing. Do you know what I mean by the often wondered about it? So, how do you walk into the hollow Earth?
you have certain points in, and it's quite the surface is deep. Apparently, from this, it looks as if it's 400 miles down,
Okay, but at
and then
some point
after
in time, you'd
that,
be standing upside down, wouldn't you?
well, yeah. But the thing is, it's imagine you had a circle, and that's
Yeah.
the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You go inside the Earth at one point, then inside is another circle, isn't it? But this time it's facing inwards.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were a human in that area, you're walking on a surface inside the circle. Obviously, the surface, the layer is 400 miles thick around the Earth on the outer, which is where we are, humans. But going in this opening opens up another huge Earth environment, let's put that,
Mm-hmm.
in underground. So it's all
So
hollow.
my beef with that is the physics of the thing. So when we walk on the surface here,
Yeah,
what's keeping us glued to the surface is gravity.
yeah,
But if you walk into this sphere you're talking about, your head will be pointing towards the center of the Earth, right?
yes.
And gravity is therefore, if your feet are still on the ground, it won't be gravity that's keeping them there. It'll be a centrifugal force.
Which
Because
is
if it was,
nonsense.
which is,
Already,
it's
which is
absolute
nonsense straight
nonsense.
away. Yeah,
Yeah. Otherwise, you simply fall towards the surface of the, towards the center of the Earth, which is supposed to be molten and hot and sun.
well,
It's their sun, isn't it?
this description makes it a
Uh,
central sun.
exactly. So you'd fall towards it, and if you didn't fall towards it, you'd actually be held up back by the centripetal force of the world spinning. But at some point in your journey, there must have been a place where the gravity and centripetal force cancel each other out, meaning that there's some place where you float.
Mm.
And no one's ever mentioned floating around. I mean,
Oh, it's nonsense, isn't it? I'm sorry.
it's worse. It's almost as bad as the flat Earth people. I'm very interested. I'm very, very, and the flat Earth people, they're so rabid. If you ever get into an argument with them, you're going to get 200 people just coming down on you like a ton of bricks. They really are rabid. But I want to get to the bottom of why they believe in.
I think it's all to do with observation rather than physics, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's not believing. It's this trust element. You're not trusting science. You're only trusting what you see.
well,
And
what do people see about to come to the conclusion that there's a hollow Earth? What are they seeing? They're
well,
not
this
seeing
is a
anything.
separate thing. No, indeed.
Well, yeah,
It's
it's the belief system. It's like why do people believe in this? Why do people believe in this conspiracy? It doesn't make any sense.
no. I don't know. I think it's just another thing to hope that there's some external being. That's why the
Something
flying
exotic
saucers,
and interesting.
yeah, because the flying saucers that are supposedly coming out from here don't have to travel across stellar space. They're in our planet. They're here. There's beings here. Although there is an example which we, I think, touched on. Jeff Snyder, was it Jeff Snyder?
I don't think it's Jeff, but I know you mean Phil Schneider.
Phil Schneider, that was it. Phil Schneider, and he said about the caverns underground, and they were full of aliens. And he said he got shot. Remember, he had physical evidence.
Oh, that was Area
52
or something, wasn't it?
It was a different
51.
area. Yeah. There's Area 51. It was a different area as well.
It was a different area, and we spoke about it because there was a firefight, and that was reported not just by Schneider but by someone else as well. As
Who
I
got
recall.
killed? Yeah, and a military
in a town.
guy.
There was a remote town in America where all this took place. We come across so many of these things.
Yeah, but this particular with the hollow Earth, nah. In the way it's described, it's like a literally the Earth is completely hollow, and this is where Admiral Byrd went in. Now, I could understand if there's huge caverns, because caverns are a different thing. Yep. Caverns can be enormous. Doesn't mean the whole Earth is bored out and hollow, but a big section that could be the size of Wales, for instance, that's even feasible. So you can have an ecosystem there that exists. Funny enough, there is evidence of one in particular in Romania. What happened in Romania? They were doing some excavating for, I believe, for property, and they were digging down, and what happened is they found a cavern which was enormous, absolutely enormous. And what they thought, what the heck is this? Completely sealed from sunlight, nearly 3/4 of a mile down, I believe it was. But they opened it up, and it was vast, huge cavern. But in here, there was water. There was running water through the cavern. And there was a whole ecosystem under there. And so, and this cavern was able to support life. And what was really strange about this cavern, it'd been there for, I think it was about 400 million years.
I don't believe in that.
Well, the time frame, we don't know exact.
It's been there for a long time.
A long time. And what they discovered was a lot of animals and some species that we'd not encountered on the surface.
Yeah.
They're all, and insect-like and things like that. But one thing which was uniform across all of them was, number one, they were all pale because there was no light. And number two, none of the creatures, spiders, slugs, little creepy crawlies, none of them had eyes.
Yeah, they didn't either.
They'd evolved without them. So
that's a devolution.
What do you mean by devolution?
Well, that's going backwards. When you don't have eyes, you haven't done anything. When you have eyes, you've done something. So if you start with no eyes and then you get eyes, that's an evolution. But if you don't have any eyes, that's not evolution. That's just not doing anything.
Interesting. Okay, right. Well, I mean, I'm done with this topic now.
I was done with it before we started, to be honest.
So, what did Admiral Byrd actually see in the South Pole? Ice. Nothing, hollow Earth, no aliens.
Lots of eyes. Yes.
No evidence. Yeah, me too. I think
he mapped it, by the way. That was the expedition that mapped a large part of the South Pole. That was the positive contribution that Admiral Byrd's expedition made to modern science and geography. They did solid work. They came back with well-mapped large area of the Antarctic, which before them wasn't known.
Interesting. Okay. All right, we've done that one. So tick.
Hogwash.
Yeah, hogwash, I'm afraid. Next one. This is an interesting one. It's also conspiracy. Is fluorine in water good for us, or are there nefarious reasons that it's there? Do you want to say something about this one?
Well, I didn't even know. Well, I've heard about it sort of in passing or something. I've heard that, yeah, some people don't like fluoride in the water. Uh, I didn't know what it was all about, so I was looking into it, and apparently some people think that it's carcinogenic, causes cancer, and generally just can be bad for your health. Actually, some people go to the extremes. So as for cancer causing, I don't know that we've seen a spike in cancers in areas where people drink fluorinated water.
Fluorinated
Water compared to where people don't drink fluorinated water. But I haven't seen any studies, by the way, because it was pretty rushed research I did on this. So I don't really know. However, where I think they may have a point, and where I begin to think maybe there is something to the conspiracy, is that some people say that fluorinated water makes the population more stupid. And you can't help but notice that the population is becoming more and more stupid. So I'm prepared, based on that fact alone, I'm prepared to believe that I'm probably going to stop drinking. Well, I'm not stupid. I'm fine. So it must be maybe if it gets you when you're young or something. So as far as I'm concerned, I made it out in one. I grew up mostly in Nigeria. I wasn't drinking fluorinated water anyway, so I'm all right. Okay. But if you look around us in Western society, something has gone wrong, man. And if it's the fluorinated water, okay, we should stop it.
Interesting. I mean, the reason why they decided to put some in is in the early 1900s, predominantly most people by the age of 25 would have teeth. Yeah, they'd have no teeth. And this was because they didn't practice any hygiene, brushing teeth or anything like that. So tooth decay was prevalent. And
can you imagine kissing in those days?
Everyone had bad teeth. Everyone. Missing teeth. It was awful. And so they decided, because fluorine actually, funny enough, is naturally occurring.
Yeah.
There's some in water anyway.
Yeah.
So you can't remove it altogether. It's just naturally occurring. It's in other things, in plants and all the rest of it. And they said that if you're exposed to 4 milligrams per million in water over a long period.
Per million what?
You've got me now. It's I can't remember the actual figure. It was 4 million per million. Yeah, 4 parts per million. That was it. If it's 4 parts per million over a longer period of time, then yes, you're absolutely right. It can lead to long term, and you have to be drinking water for many, 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 many years. So it's tend to affect you in your older age, as studies seem to show, that you are more prone to brittle bones. Not cancer, brittle bones. Okay. And so, but the value that they chose to put in water, and it was adopted throughout the world because everyone realized it worked, was 0.7 parts per million. So you're talking 4 parts per million to 0.7 parts per million. So it's a sixth, less than a sixth lower than the dose, which could be slightly iffy for you. Now, so for years, and since it's been in water, the tooth decay has decreased. Mm-hmm. It has decreased.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. It could be that, yes, it's really good for your teeth, but it could also mean it's good for your teeth, but it gives you brittle bones and it kills you. It makes you stupid and it gives
possibly
you cancer.
There's no definitive research to confirm that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the people who are saying it's bad for you don't have definite reports to confirm that that is the case. But saying that, is it necessary to still fluorinate water? That's another question, because practices for teeth now are far, far better. Most people use a fluoride toothpaste, which again only has a small amount of fluorine in it. So even drinking water, using a toothpaste, using a mouthwash still doesn't get you near this 4 parts per million amount, which they say over a long period of time isn't good. So you're well below that level anyway. However, there are some people in society who are sensitive. So they could have issues with fluorinated water alongside teeth brushing, alongside mouth washing. So their threshold may not be 4 parts per million. It could be a lot lower. So they could be prone to having these effects. And also young children, because they're smaller bodies than adults, the dosage for them is less when it can become a problem. But again, are they drinking enough water? Are they brushing teeth with enough toothpaste? Because remember, kids' toothpastes have less fluorine in it than adult toothpaste. That's why children aren't supposed to use adult toothpaste until they get to a certain age, for part of these reasons. So the evidence which some of these people who are claiming it should be removed, for instance, causing myocardial damage to the heart, or heart failure itself, there's very little evidence which are proper studies to corroborate those claims. But
to be hard anyway.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean they're not true either.
Yeah, they're hard. I mean, such a study, where are you going to get a control group from?
Indeed. Where?
If, as you say, the whole planet has adopted this.
Well, saying that,
not sure that we have it in.
It's not the whole planet. There are countries now that no longer fluorinate their water, and they haven't noticed any decrease in tooth decay. It hasn't got worse since they defluorinated their water, which then you can sort of, I suppose, transpose and say, well, actually, do we need to still do it?
Do we even need it?
Yeah,
frankly.
Because there is better oral hygiene. People are now brushing teeth regularly, using mouthwash, etc. So that's replaced the need, effectively, of having it in the water.
I did actually try to find how much money was being involved in this, and it doesn't seem to be enough money to trigger a conspiracy. Nobody's making billions or anything.
No, not at all. In fact, they're actually losing money because they're having to fluorinate the water.
Yeah. So frankly, I really don't think. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the research and the science on this, but my guess would be that it's probably neither here nor there, to be honest.
The thing that you touched on, actually, while we started this particular topic, is an interesting one, because you said it makes people less not stupid, but
low IQ. Lowers your IQ. That's stupid.
No, there's another thing. There's a lot of people saying that we all have. I know I don't believe this myself, but I will repeat it. We have a third eye. Have you heard this?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. We have a third eye, and it's invisible. It's in the center of our head here.
It's
here. It's inside, effectively.
It's inside. Okay. Because you said it's here, and you can't see that. I'll be like, yeah, that's invisible.
Yeah. No. It's inside.
Classic
and it's,
definition of invisible.
There's a term for it.
Isn't that supposed to be the pineal gland or something?
Yes, that's the one. Well done. And that apparently, so some people are claiming, gets clogged up with fluorine. So you're not as intuitive as you could be.
Not only that, if your pineal gland is clogged up, then your hormones would be out of whack. because the pineal gland actually controls the production of a lot of our hormones, especially our sex hormones. So if we see that the pineal gland is affected, and we can correlate that to what seems to be an explosion of LGBTQ persons in society, then maybe there's something to it. But I think I was reading or I heard or came across a video that Western society in particular is suffering from a horrendous lack of testosterone amongst men. And they don't know what it is. And they're not even claiming it's a conspiracy. It's just they don't know what it is. Nobody's claiming any conspiracy. It's a medical thing. And males are not producing the kind of testosterone that they used to. So if that's got something to do with the pineal gland, that'd be interesting. Again, it'd be very interesting to see if that holds true across all countries where there's fluorinated water. There are avenues of research here. It's just that nobody's taking it. It seems to me, from my rather shallow research, that no one is actually taking it very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, the tooth decay, actually, funny enough, is quite a big thing. It's not just because it looks horrible. There's some health benefits about the mouth that for your general well-being as a whole. So that's why the decision was made. It wasn't purely for cosmetic reasons and people having to be treated for tooth decay and poor oral hygiene. It was because there's more fundamental issues with your whole well-being. When you've got healthy teeth, you're generally far better, health-wise. So it's a big thing. So it wasn't
you can masticate properly, for one thing.
Well, indeed. But it wasn't a decision taken lightly, and other countries saw the benefits and decided to do it. But there's the three particular European countries I want to name that no longer fluorinate their water are Belgium, Luxembourg, and Denmark. And
they've got some of the dodgiest people in Europe. So that's not a great advert at all for non-fluorinated water.
But there's been no uptake of tooth decay because of it. Do you see what I mean? So they've made a saving by not having to fluorinate the water. Yeah. So they've saved money by not doing that. But it hasn't had a detrimental effect.
Yeah, and at the same time, they haven't lost money in greater use of dentistry.
No. Where would that?
Dental resources.
The only caveat to that, there is a caveat, is with the really poor element in society, the real low level who are suffering anyway, the poor class. There's been an upturn of slight increase in oral decay in that demographic because they didn't go to the dentist anyway. And what little help they got from drinking water was enough to keep that at bay. When that was removed, they weren't very good with oral hygiene, didn't brush their teeth often enough. All they did was drink water. Now that's been removed, they've lost that too. So there's evidence that has slightly gone down. But if you're putting fluorine in the water just for this small demographic of people, do you really need it for the vast majority?
No, obviously not. No.
So if there was a way of finding and dealing with people who have got income issues or at the low end of the spectrum, then there could be justification to remove fluorine from the water without any really ill effects with the general public.
Yeah, or you could just use one of these type of solutions, ultra fascist, and just inspect people's teeth every 6 months. 20 lashes of the cane if we find any tooth decay, because you should be cleaning your teeth, man. You know, what's your problem? Unless seriously they're so poor that they can't afford toothpaste.
Which is probably part of the reason.
In which case, then that's the government's fault, because the government should be able to look after its people. I think things like that could be probably put on benefits or something, because
Yeah. But that we briefly mentioned it in one of the other shows about universal income.
Universal credit, universal income. Sorry, universal income.
Yeah. Where everybody is given a living wage, and so benefits are removed. The whole benefit system is removed. Everyone gets a wage regardless, and with that wage, so you could be sitting at home and you're getting a wage. Obviously, if you go to a job, it'd be way more, but you've always got that safety net. So if you go to a job you don't like it, you can leave. You've still got an income coming in regardless.
Yeah, I'd like to see that in operation, because I don't know how long that society is going to last. Everyone's just sitting at home.
Well, no, that's not the reason, because you've still got a lot of people that want more than that. Because remember, that's like,
I said I want to see it in action. That is your theory. I want to see this in action. Because it all sounds very good on paper, but so does communism. Communism sounds great on paper, but look at all the communist countries in the world. This is like a form of communism,
if you think about it.
Yeah, I'm saying, and then when you actually practice it, it's not so flipping nice.
No, indeed.
So we need to see it, in black and white.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move forward on this fluorine in water. Is it nefarious though? Is there something that's dumbing us down?
Well, something's dumbing us down. Or, because I like being accurate, something's dumbing you lot down. Let's not say us. Let's be very careful banding that pronoun us around.
What do you mean you lot? What, are you banding me in the same group?
Well, not me anyway, okay? That's the important thing. I don't know what it's... I don't have an opinion on this. I didn't do sufficiently deep research for me to have an opinion. From the little I could see, it seems that there's a small but vocal minority of people who are, small minority, what does that mean? There's a small number of people who are very vocal, and they're very anti this fluorine. But I don't see that they've produced the kind of data and science that could, is a smoking bomb of any kind.
There's this. I mean, I have had a look around. I haven't found any evidence to suggest that it's really negative for humans at the dosage that's been put in. And also, it's not every country in the world doing it. There are now a number of countries that have chosen to not do it. And it's not a way of controlling the population. I don't believe it's a way of dumbing down the population. These are all outlandish theories and, as part of our show, conspiracies. But there's no evidence to back those up. I think, from my own opinion and what I've done a little bit of research, it's to do with literally to try and stop teeth decay. But there is a legitimate question now whether we still need to do it. I think when this was first introduced 75 or even 100 years ago, I don't know exact date.
Turn of the last century, I believe, from my reading.
There was justification to do it, as we've already touched on. There was people that had no teeth, and the ones that did with one tooth here. Even I think George Washington had.
Oh yeah, did he have wooden teeth or something?
He lost his teeth at 25. Because of poor oral hygiene, and he had to have special teeth made up, even with some of his, thankfully he captured his teeth that fallen out, so they built him a special type mouthpiece, so he could chew food. I mean, it wasn't a good position to be in, so it made sense at the time to look at ways of improving oral health of the nation. And so, yes, it made sense to put it in. Now, less so of a reason, and really they should revisit it and maybe trial it, take it out and measure and see what the ramifications are, whether they're good or bad. Because
I'm reading, as you were speaking, I just reminded myself, There are currently 74. What is currently? When was this published? There are, well, October 2018. This is a CBS News website, 2018. At that time, there were 74 cities in America that have voted to remove fluoride from their drinking water. What is remarkable is that, as you and I said before, fluoride was added to drinking water, I believe, at the turn of the last century, and resistance to it did not appear until the 1950s, with claims that fluoridation was a communist plot to dumb down Americans. So that was the start, according to this CBS report, that was the start of the resistance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I don't think that we had noticed a dumbing down of American society that long ago.
No.
I think it's more recent than that.
Yes, and that could be other reasons, not fluorine in the water. So, final conclusion, is it nefarious or is it?
Probably not, is mine. I don't think there's anything to worry about here. So agreed. I'm going for false.
Yeah, agreed. I'm same with you. However, there is the question, is it still needed? Probably not.
I don't think it's still needed, but
it doesn't matter if it's there personally.
Yeah, precisely. It's not,
if it can save the money of, the government a few hundred, or, well, it could be the water companies really, but whoever fluorinates the water, I would assume it's the water companies, it may save them money if the government said,
bring down the bills
let's
a
stop
bit.
it.
Could help. Every little helps.
Who knows? Okay, brill. Right, the final one, if we can get this one in, we've got some time, we can do it, is the mysterious death of Stanley Meyer. Now, do you want to kick things off?
I think I'll let you, because you tell a good story. So let's hear from you.
Okay. For our listeners and viewers out there wondering who the heck is Stanley Meyer, well, he was a avid, not scientist, but inventor. And he invented loads and loads of things. And he, purported to have invented a water-powered engine, which removes the need for fossil fuels. And so he created this engine. He had a car. He said that he could go from one part of the United States to the other on just a few liters. And it used the process of electrolysis to generate power. And he was so-called the man who created this water-powered engine so he could propel a car. However, he died rather suddenly whilst meeting some investors. And the conspiracy that's come about from this is whether he was bumped off because of this invention that would put paid to having oil. Think about all the oil-faring countries. They wouldn't want this thing to take off. And so could it be they got wind of the fact that he made this engine and wanted to knock him off? And so he died under mysterious circumstances.
Yes, he was meeting, as you say, he and his brother were meeting investors from a foreign country. The reports don't mention which country.
Belgium. Apparently.
Was it Belgium? Well, actually, they're kind of weird, with a lack of fluorinated water. This was, of course, back in 1998 or something, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. It was a few years ago.
He was served a glass of cranberry juice, and he had only taken a couple of sips of this thing when his face turned blue, or some kind of weird color. And he started being violently ill. He ran out of the restaurant into what the Americans would call a parking lot. And he fell to the ground and he was throwing up, and he gasped before he died. He has poisoned me. He has poisoned me.
Yeah, she said that on his deathbed, basically.
Yeah, he actually said that, as he was dying. And his brother was trying to bring comfort, but before the ambulance got there, he was dead. Now, from the point of view of the conspiracy, with that in mind, it does seem a bit odd that the autopsy and the coroner's report was death by natural causes. I don't think
Didn't
many
he have
people.
an embolism or something? That's what they said. Or
Well, natural causes, but frankly, if you're sitting down for a meal, you don't, due to natural causes, leap to your feet and rush outside,
no.
vomiting seriously and dying, gasping. He has poisoned me, but we don't know who he is. And so that's the basic setup of the conspiracy, where it all sounds very interesting. And then you start digging into it, and you start learning things. But before I do that, when I was researching this, I came across a couple of things that just made me laugh. One of them was this. It says about the death of the Stanley Meyer. We killed that dude to save millions of people in paying higher water bills. Signed, the oil industry. And I really love that one. It's a very, very altruistic of them. So that's the basic setup of the conspiracy. However, when you start looking into it, there are certain things that make you think, hang on, is this really what it's supposed to be? First of all, only the brother heard him say, he has poisoned me. It wasn't witnesses standing around. And then he said, so it was the brother who reported after the event that Stanley had said he has poisoned me. Nobody else heard it.
Yeah.
So that's a bit, not too sure about that. As you said, the autopsy, and therefore the coroner's report, was death due to an aneurysm.
Yeah.
I do know that sometimes aneurysms cause vomiting, because I've had I know about it from my own personal relationships. There was vomiting involved, and then the person eventually died, and that was what killed him. So it's consistent, but I don't know why he ran out of the. I don't know why he ran out of the restaurant though, because he did, right? And further evidence that makes you question the conspiracy angle. Oh, sorry. Further evidence that makes you wonder if there is a conspiracy is that somebody broke into his workshop and stole his car.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
However, the thing for me.
That said, it could be somebody who was hoping to make a killing for himself. If you're mafia and the guy who's just invented something has conked, and you know where the car is, what stops you from going and getting the car so that you can make a killing yourself? Right? So I don't read that as being necessarily a smoking gun. And then where I really don't think there's anything to this story is the fact that he was successfully sued in the state of Ohio for stealing the idea of his fuel cell. Now, apparently that fuel cell was nothing more than an ordinary electrolysis machine. And obviously the mathematics, if you know about the conservation of energy and everything, the maths and the physics just don't work. It's very close to being an infinite energy machine. So there was nothing. He had to return, and he did return money to investors based on that court case.
Yeah, I mean, he said he did have the car, and he said he was using it, and there was no videos. Emissions, no videos, and no independent, no independent. You know what you do is you normally get people like I don't know, some university send scientists around the boffins. The more, the better. They'd look at the car, they'd check. They might not be able to inspect everything because you're trying to protect your patent, but they will look very carefully and make sure there's no hanky-panky going on as much as they can. And then they drive behind you whilst you drove from point A to point B. So they're not seeing the engine itself, they're just behind you.
Well, they've opened up so they know that inside the car there's this amount of machinery. And this is where fuel might be stored, right? And then you calculate, okay, even if this was diesel, it can take you this far. But if what you're saying is true, you can drive all the way to California from, say, New York. That shouldn't be possible, right?
Well,
so
it's using a new technology, isn't it? It's not.
no, I'm saying it shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
If you do have a new technology, then you can do it. But if you don't have a new technology, your car is going to conk out halfway, or before. So the proof of the pudding is that your car does actually make it all the way to California.
That would have been a great test.
That would have been a great test, and that's what they should have done. But since he didn't, people are like, yeah, there's no solid evidence that it worked.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what's happened to it. Why is it not being?
It didn't work. In my idea, somebody stole it, looked at it, tried it, and found out this thing doesn't work. It just died. That's it.
So it was a scam, but you didn't get anything from it. So it just seemed odd that.
No, he had an aneurysm before he could get anything from it.
So the whole thing died a death before it even took off.
Yeah. I mean, when it took off to some extent, don't forget he had to hand money back.
Yeah.
So he got money from somewhere before 98. I don't know when the court case was. I think it was 97. Was it 96 or 97? It doesn't say. This is very bad reporting. It says earlier he had this court case where in the state of Ohio, where he was sued for using the cell that he used was already invented and was somebody else's. So he was breaking someone else's patents anyway.
So even though he was breaking someone's patent, was it actually working then? If someone had patented the
cell...
No,
it wasn't working. It was an ordinary electrolysis machine. You know, we do electrolysis, right?
Yeah.
So it was just an ordinary electrolysis cell.
But not generating anywhere near enough power to drive.
No, because his idea was that, see, what he was saying was he would recombine the oxygen and hydrogen, which would produce heat, which would power the vehicle. And at the same time, the excess gas would go back and recombine into water and feed back into the loop.
Interesting. There must be some residue. That's like a perpetual machine.
Very close to it. I mean, because obviously there's heat loss. I mean, some of the.
But where's the energy? Where's the energy being expelled? How did he break it apart?
Well, then you
heat, electrolysis.
Yeah, exactly. This is the problem. You're fueling yourself, which is the infinite energy machine.
Yeah,
a perpetual state machine, which is, that's why I said the maths and the physics don't work.
Okay. Yeah. And there is the question, obviously, because it apparently only had eyewitness testimony of the car actually working, but there was no
video.
No video. There was
no
independent evidence to check it. Yeah, and also, why hasn't anybody picked up where he left off? Because he made his drawings available, didn't he? So why has nobody taken it on board? And
because I looked at it and go, this doesn't work, bruv. Doesn't work.
Yeah, interesting. Although there is something that, I mean, on a side note here, I know we say this doesn't work. Maybe there was something not quite finished. Although he did say that he had the engine doing it. And how did the engine actually ride around? Because people saw him drive it. So
you could have made a machine a car that worked, that was powered by water, but it just wouldn't have done what he said it did, which is
so it was
the efficiency.
Inefficient. Yeah, inefficient.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would make some sense. But yeah, you're right. Why is it no one's picked up on that research and taken it further?
Somebody stole the car, so where is it?
Well, indeed, that was.
The conspiracy is that it was stolen by the oil companies.
To suppress it. But he'd made his solution available. He didn't hide that, did he? So
I don't know what he did with that, because but it's like someone who in the 70s, late 70s, very early 80s, I remember watching it on a program here in the UK called Tomorrow's World.
Yes.
Who claimed that he had made some catalytic converter or something, which enabled us to go, say, 500 miles to the gallon. And then that disappeared. And the conspiracy was that the oil companies were bought it
Well,
to keep it out of the market.
Do you know what? That does happen. That really does happen. I don't know if I mentioned this before on a previous show, a very early show, but I used to go round my late father's house, and he used to have Italian TV on. He had a satellite dish that picked up Italian TV, and there used to be a show on there which was it was people would come on with inventions, and it was a bit like Dragon's Den, or this the shark thing in America, which is similar to Dragon's Den. Shark Tank, they call it in the States. We have Dragon's Den, where people come forward with inventions. They try to get money from the sharks, or in our case in the UK, the dragons, to invest in them and get the item in mass produced and make money. And this guy in the Italian equivalent of the show said he'd invented safe electricity. He got this little device that you plug on the end of electricity, and it makes it totally safe. And how he demonstrated it, he got a fan, just a normal fan that people could see, plugged it in, and it was spinning away. And he had a water tank. And so he put the plug on his little device and plugged it in the main socket. And he had an extension cable. And he said he's going to submerge it in the water and turn it on and put his hands in it. And everyone was going, no, you sure you're going to do this? And he said, yeah. And he did it. And the fan's working in the water. And he unplugged it and plugged it back in the water for everyone to see. And this fan would go on and off with his hands submerged with the electric there. And he was perfectly fine because he'd made electricity safe. And everyone was like, wow, what a thing. And the dragons were looking at it and saying, how will this work? Commercially, will it make things safer for everybody? And he said, yes, we want to scale it up, but obviously blah, blah, blah. And what they do with the show, I mean, the dragons in this instance didn't take him up because he was asking for too much money. And so what they do is they go to the audience who are watching, and they say, if you liked, Fred here, here's a number on the screen, phone and pledge if you want. This other number is for Doris. And, they do that. They have the numbers on there. So any that weren't selected by the dragons still have an opportunity to appeal to the audience. And then the following week, they do a follow-up show to see how they, did anyone take them up? Mm. And so this was all exciting. For, oh my goodness, why did the dragons not buy into this thing? Anyway, the following week, they did a recap of the show and they said, yeah, Giorgio, whatever his name was, he got an offer from a private bidder who bid £1.5 million for his invention. And then it was silence, never went anywhere. And the rumor was it was electric companies that bought it from him. But obviously they didn't want to enable it because it would put a lot of their people out of business, a lot of their engineers. They can't, because then you think about it. If electricity is safe, you can make and work on your own house, can't you? It's totally safe now. You've got this device in your mains. You can wire things up. There's no danger. But electricity companies would lose out if they couldn't then sell you their services because you can do it all yourself from a DIY store. Now you have to have all these licenses, so that the whole thing was buried. So what you're saying,
I struggle with that. I struggle with that story. I struggle with that story because electricity companies don't make money from sending workmen around to your house.
Back then they did.
Sorry?
Then they did.
I think that I don't think so. I think they generate money by generating electricity.
But they also have additional services.
Yeah, but that's not that. I mean, it's like a restaurant. You might have toilet and you have to pay to use the toilet, but that's not what they do. What they do is they serve you food. Probably not a good example, but you understand what I'm trying to say. The main business is generating electricity. So what would have happened is because you seem to be prepared to believe that he made electricity safe. I don't see how that works scientifically, so I don't buy it. I think it was a con.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I think it was a con. I think he did something, and he conned him. Was it his fan?
He put his hand, the fans in.
Oh yeah, was it his fan? Or did he tell the dragons to bring their own fans along, and then because that I believe.
I don't know.
If it was his fan, I'd be like, yeah, no. But if it was some random fan that the dragons had brought with them, and he just took one off them and plugged it into water, I'd say, yeah, that's it. But I still wouldn't know how that works.
We'd have to investigate clearly, but hey. But anyway, I mean, coming back to this, so yeah, this thing where ideas are hatched and then buried by big companies, because it makes sense. They're affecting their bottom line if a competitor comes along and gazumps them with a solution that makes their product redundant. So
the real life example was what the motor industry did to the trams in America, and I think even in the UK, because they wanted to sell their cars. They bought up the tram companies and they killed off all the trams, which I think is disgusting. It's
indeed,
unbelievable.
Indeed.
But I think transport for everybody, more easily, and without all the fuss.
But going back to the death of Stanley Meyer and his idea, what do you think? Because we're getting to the end. I don't think there was a conspiracy there to kill him. But then again, people don't run out of the restaurant to die of an aneurysm. So I don't know. Okay. What about the second question? Did he actually produce an engine made of water?
No, that I think we can dismiss that.
Okay. So yeah, he could have been bumped off, but whether he did an engine, I don't think so, because there just isn't enough there to convince me.
No.
Okay, with that, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.